Hey, everybody, and welcome to Answer the Call, episode 11. Today's Answer the Call, I'm going to apologize a little bit. I just started a new job. I'm not as prepared as I would like to be, okay? But today's Answer the Call, the topic is Star Citizen's development too open? For this one, I don't feel I have to be super prepared with notes and stuff like that because I've been kind of feeling somewhere in the middle, personally, where I think some things they're too open, and I think some things they're not enough. And yeah, I mean, I think we'll go into that. But for those of you that are new here, Answer the Call is a podcast, a Star Citizen related podcast that is one topic only and viewer call in supported. So if you've ever listened to sports radio or talk radio in general, it's usually a host has an opinion, and then people call in and share their opinions about the host's opinion or the topic at hand or whatever. So today's topic, once again, is Star Citizen to open. So Star Citizen's development started in 2012 with a Kickstarter with the promise to be open development, an open book. This is how we do things. This is the progress that we've made, and so on. And in my opinion, up to this point, they've lived up to that somewhat. I think at times they have not been open. I think we can talk about the 3.0. I would call it a debacle. 3.0 was, or the road to 3.0 was a complete disaster at one stage where there was a plan to have 3.0 at one date, and then it was just radio silence for a while, and then they started doing the what was it called? I can't even remember the name of it, where they had Eric Kyron Davis there talking about the bugs left until 3.0 came out. And when that started happening, I thought that's when they started being more open. I think they realized that they were a bit closed. But I don't think I want on this show to actually like nitpick. Well, they should be a little bit more open about this, and they should burn down. Correct. Thank you, Twitch chat. Broken and Twitch chat. I don't want to like nitpick, like burn down should have been like this, or they shouldn't have done burn down, or whatever. I think what the focus of the show today is this: does Star Citizen's open development affect it positively or negatively or both? And if it's both, is it more on the positive end, is it more on the negative end? What are the results of Star Citizen's open development, positive or negative? And for me, I think it's been overwhelmingly more negative than positive, and here's why. Is the fact that Star Citizen's development is open, not just the fact that it's open, but the game is there to play while they're developing it, causes them to have to be more polished than what you would have if Star Citizen was in this state of development and it wasn't open, it wouldn't be near as polished as it is now. It wouldn't look as good. It would be a lot easier, I imagine, on the developer as well to actually make the game, and we'd probably be way further progressed than we are now. And that's like the only point I want to make about it, is I think it is overwhelmingly negative to Star Citizen's development and the community, because they have to, and the developers, to actually make the game, because it has to be more polished than it should be. I think it makes it so difficult on them and so hard because of that. And it's tough. Now, on the other side, and I'm seeing this in Twitch chat as well, is without the open development, would the game even exist? And I'm going to say I disagree. Okay? I think the game would exist. And I think they could do monthly updates. Hey, this is where we're at. I don't think it didn't have to be a game that you can play, because guess what? Nobody really bought Star Citizen because of the gameplay, right? Nobody's bought Star Citizen because of what they've seen in Star Citizen until recently. And I feel like maybe they wouldn't have made $210 million, but I feel like they would have done fine as far as funding the game goes if the product didn't need to be out there and didn't need to be polished. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going to leave it, and I want to kind of see what you guys have to say after that. But I think in my opinion, the open development of Star Citizen has an overwhelmingly negative impact on it, simply because of the development time that it's taking. Not because of the trolls that come out of nowhere and say, oh, look at the frame rate, it's so bad, or the fact that things change. That's a whole nother thing that could be brought up as well, is the fact that, like, here's a hot topic lately, which is mind-blowingly stupid in my opinion. The Carrack landing gear has changed. I hate it. I'm melting my Carrack. Like, guys, like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, that's not where the point that I'm trying to make. And we can do that kind of focus with the calls. But just my major point is that I think it's overwhelmingly negative on the speed of development and the progress of the actual game, which in the end, what matters more than anything is the game, man. Getting the game out, playing the game, seeing it develop, and you can be open. I don't necessarily think you needed to have the game out there. Look at a game like Cyberpunk 2077. Very, very close development. They showed one trailer. Everybody was super hyped. Everybody can't wait for that game, right? Star Citizen could have done the same thing. Could have done the same thing. Right? And they could do their, like, playable free fly demos or whatever every now and then. Hey guys, we got like a decent build out there. Want you to play it? And here you go. But it doesn't have to be like ultra polished. So yeah. I mean, that's kind of the point I want to make. But I also, before we move into the calls, want to say that everything that's happened up to this point in Star Citizen has made it what it is today. And I couldn't be happier with where we are today. I love the state of the game and where it is now, even though I'm ultra salty because we just had like a bunch of crashes right before the show today. But I think everything that Star Citizen has done up to this point has got us to where we are now, has created this community and all these things. There's so many positives, but for me, the negative on the game development side is it just overtakes all that for me personally. So I kind of want to hear what you guys have to say. We have one of our all-star callers waiting in line right now, Caman. Bringing Caman in. Hey, Caman, you're on Answer the Call.
Good morning, Twerk. Thank you for taking my call.
Anytime, man. Good morning. You're becoming a regular.
Yeah.
Our first regular.
To be honest, yeah. And I'm glad to be. I really love the podcast. But to be honest with you, I'm not particularly prepared either because I wasn't expecting this episode.
Me neither. We were supposed to do the female model today, but that's going to be next week because our female guest had to cancel this week.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to your talk with Alyciana on the female perspective in Star Citizen. I think that's going to be a really enlightening conversation, and it just would have been nice to hear from her in general because she hasn't uploaded recently, so just hearing her opinions just would have been great. But
absolutely,
I'll look forward to that later on. But even though I suggested this question, it was me that kind of put it forth as a topic suggestion. I was really just trying to contribute ideas to help support you in the podcast because I really love the podcast. So I don't have particularly strong feelings one way or the other, but I do have some thoughts to share. And, I know this is kind of a slow day, so as usual, I'll follow your lead on whether you want to extend the conversation based on the queue.
Absolutely.
So I personally don't play the alpha. I watched you and occasionally other streamers, but mostly you. And I don't play it myself. I have this sort of ideological commitment where I don't play the game as unfinished as it is, but
And
I will
you
follow
are
the.
very much in the majority.
Yes, and I'm gonna get and yeah, that's exactly right. And I will follow the project closely and check in on its status. And after all, I have a lot invested in the project compared to any other game I've played.
Hmm.
Relatively speaking, my own personal finances, it's a lot for me to put in. Hundreds of dollars, and I want to see it succeed. I think a lot of us do, especially after all the cool things we're starting to see come online.
Yep.
And I actually think that the general public interest in the game is starting to very gradually increase. I mean, we definitely saw this with the spike during this year's anniversary sale.
And even if it's like not only increasing, but leaning more positive than negative,
Yes,
right? You're hearing a
yes,
lot less of, this game's a scam, blah, 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 blah. You're hearing a lot more of, wow, this game is beautiful. I mean, if you watch Twitch chat, if you've been on Twitch in the last like week or so, a lot of really big streamers have been playing Star Citizen. Something I may have mentioned on Answer the Call a few weeks back about maybe you should give Star Citizen to some really big streamers and, people that are patient and stuff like that. And then look at what happens. All you see is PogChamps, which are like excited faces for people that are Twitch normies or whatever. And the it's been a fantastic experience with all these people really, really enjoying Star Citizen. We had people with 30, 40,000 viewers, 10, 20,000 viewers playing the game. And the Twitch chat was overwhelmingly positive. There was occasionally like frame rate comments, but that was really it. I mean, there wasn't much at all. So, that's a big, big thing. And
yeah,
that's kind of
absolutely.
and that's kind of um taking away from my opinion and saying like, well, look, they have this game that's out there that's playable and people see it and now they're getting excited about it, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely, well, I partially agree. I still don't know if it would have been a good idea for CIG to financially directly sponsor big streamers. I think, like, I really, even, I don't understand why you would suggest that. Well, I do, but to
It's
me, it seems like
it's
you're punching yourself in the face almost as a content creator. That just seems like a slap in the face to the people like you who've worked so hard. Oh my God, you're getting me salty about this. But
don't
I'm just,
listen, dude. I already said it like when I about that show too, on that show, I said it. I said this specifically. We don't matter to Star Citizen. Me, Saurus, Baron, DJ, Detox, everybody that plays Star Citizen, obviously Captain Richard, none of us matter to them in the sense of advertising, right?
I
Because
still disagree.
okay, advertising to new people, okay? I have the analytics. We all have the analytics. Is the amount of followers that we gain when playing Star Citizen are so incredibly low these days than when we first started. Did we matter way back 2, 3 years ago? We absolutely mattered back then because nobody knew what the game was. So when people came to our channel, they came and saw that. A lot of people know what Star Citizen is, but at this point, and the people who watch Star Citizen on Twitch are the people who watch Star Citizen on Twitch. So Star Citizen isn't getting any more eyes really on Star Citizen through our Twitch channels. Like, the viewership numbers cap with us. But when you go to a streamer that has a giant community that has never played the game before, you get that many more eyes on it. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that we don't matter, but we don't matter in the sense of if we give this guy a $45 game package and pay him $1,000 an hour to play the game, which is a going rate for those size streamers, and he plays the game for a couple hours, they're going to make that money and way more. So it makes sense. But if they paid me $200 an hour, they wouldn't make that money back. That's all. That's the only point I'm trying to make about that. But if you don't think that Lyric playing Star Citizen didn't make them more than a few $1,000s, you're out of your mind. It probably made them 10, 20.
Everything you said is absolutely logical and true. And your point about analytics, which you pointed out in a previous stream,
I get
is
less than
absolutely
10
true.
followers a stream.
Yes, okay, I get it. But you can't look at those types of analytics, I think, in a vacuum. And my concern is not the fact, and my argument isn't even that Lyric playing the stream and everyone, or Lyric playing the game and everyone pog champing isn't amazing. It is amazing and it's very good for them. But I don't look at this in terms of raw analytics because this is a different game. It's not a big game with a big publisher. It's a game with community backing, a lot of community love behind it. And my concern is the optics. And the optics don't have as easily of a discernible, quantifiable value as them just throwing $1,000 to Lyric. And I feel like if they do that, they may end up with a net negative effect. Maybe. And that's what I'm concerned about. I look at this a lot more conservatively. I feel like they should push in a direction where they continue to leverage the goodwill of the community. And this is something we talked about last week. I really didn't want to get into this, but you triggered me because I love your stream. I think you're a great content creator. I think that all of the content creators who have put in their hard work shouldn't be slapped in the face by having outsiders sponsored for all this money just so they can bring on new players at an unfinished state of the game. And maybe we fundamentally disagree about that. Maybe you feel like that, you know, could benefit them more in terms
But
of
Star Citizen has done
them.
so many good things for me already. I went to Gamescom. I got to play Star Marine before anybody did. You know, they've done more for me than I would ever ask them to do.
Well, I'm not saying that they should pay you or existing content creators.
You just okay. You just don't.
Of them paying a larger streamer would probably counteract the. I just think that the optics are terrible.
But how about this one? But the only optics that if Lyric plays Star Citizen with hashtag sponsored, that's all you're gonna see. It's gonna say hashtag sponsored. I'm giving you the inside look at things because I've watched a YouTube video from Disguised Toast to tell me how much those size streamers make per hour when games come to them, right? And to be fair, Lyric didn't play this game sponsored. He played it because he thought it was cool because his friend played it. Okay?
Yes.
So let's leave it at that. You know, none of that stuff was sponsored. Let's make sure that that was clear. But if they do and go out there and say, here, go play this game sponsored and pay them $1,000 an hour or more. The big streamers, just so you guys know, get paid from $1,000 to $10,000 an hour, depending on the game and whatever. It's a lot of money, right? But it just when they decide to start putting advertising dollars in, Twitch is a very, very valuable machine that needs to be used. And that's one of the ways to use it. They use it. I mean, they tried to get away from it, which was mind-blowing at CitizenCon, but you have to use it or you're stupid, in my opinion. And that's one of the ways to use it. And people like Lyric now, that he's a little more chilled out about the game. People like Giant Waffle. People like Shroud. People like Burke Black and Timac and all these people that have been playing it. Those are the type of people that you would reach out to. You wouldn't just give it to anybody. And the only negative optics are going to be coming from the community who goes, you're spending my backing dollars to give to this streamer. Fuck you. No, Shroud hasn't played it. I feel he would be great if he did. Just watching his streams when he plays games other than shooters, I think Shroud would be really, really great because Shroud loves video games. But so I think he would really appreciate Star Citizen. That's it. But I think the optics that you're saying is that the community would look and say, you're taking an Idris and giving it to somebody else. And I don't like that. But guess what? If you feel that way, I think you're not looking at things big enough. And I think you're not understanding that this game it can't go on word of mouth forever. Word of mouth has taken it here. It's taken it to mountain peaks. But this game is supposed to go to space. And if it's going to go to space, they need to advertise further than where it's been. You know?
Yeah.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah. I do think that there are nuances here and that there is a spectrum here, sort of a stratification with how they progress what their marketing strategy is. And while I continue to have my doubts about whether it is wise for them to pay someone at this time to stream, even now at this point in the game, I do definitely take your point, as I've taken it in the past, although not in open discussion with you, regarding the analytics and the raw numerical sales benefits of them appealing to large streamers
We don't
and whoever
benefit
getting.
Star Citizen right now in terms of advertising. We don't benefit them. We benefit them in being a part of the community and doing things like I'm doing today and allowing the community to have a voice on things and hoping CIG devs watch this. I've never gotten a comment from a CIG dev about the show or anything that we've talked about in the past on past shows, but I hope that that's what this show does. That's what we have to offer Star Citizen.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think that existing content creators recirculate interest in the game. So even if there's not a lot of new players coming to the channel and analytics to support that, there is still that recirculation of, here's this video that Twerk did, here's a segment of his stream, here's what some existing streamer did, and it gets bounced around the internet. It kind of recirculates the interest for the existing community.
Yeah.
And I think that there is an argument to be made kind of that melds both of our points of view regarding balancing the progression of how they approach marketing and sales, and using Twitch as the very valuable and lucrative vehicle that it is to do so, against continuing to cultivate this existing community culture that they've made, where it's very backer focused, it's very sort of homegrown, and it's a huge business now. I understand that, and it is going to have to transition to reflect that. But I feel like there's still an argument to be made towards sort of conservatively spurning that transition so that it doesn't burn us too hard. That's all. But yeah, I do. Obviously, I agree with the numbers. Obviously, I agree with the analytics. I'm reasonable in that regard, and I do take that point.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and we're so far off topic.
Yeah, I know. But you triggered me, so it's your fault.
It is my fault.
But so I think that pointing out the context of me not playing the alpha is important. Because it makes me approach this conversation with a certain perspective. The whole question of, is the development too open? Because I approach it as the sort of hands-off but supportive, patiently waiting in the background kind of approach. And I think this is pretty representative, like you said, since only a small portion of people play the alpha. So again, as someone that doesn't play the alpha, I generally appreciate more information, but within reason. So at the same time, I don't like spoilers. So for me, it's about that sweet spot. And this is what I'm going to really hone in and focus on. It's about hitting that balance between effectively communicating useful information that CIG can reasonably manage, in addition to their development responsibilities, while limiting spoilers. And this ties into a previous topic on CIG's marketing and PR to new players that we were talking about. If they go too transparent, it's information overload, and most of those people aren't going to review it. So it then becomes a waste of the producer's time and energy to do it anyway. And the type of people who are inclined to review that kind of information overload will pick it apart anyway, because they'll never have the full internal development context, even if they themselves have experience in the industry. So, I mean, you yourself point out how most backers aren't developers. So over transparency could just expose extremely unfinished ideas too early and cause more negative press, more confusion than anything else. So there's definitely diminishing returns.
No matter what, like and now a lot of us are like armchair devs. Like we think we know what's going on because we've watched ATV and RTV, and they've given us little snippets of what it's like to be a game developer, but none of us are actually game developers. Some of us are, but most of us aren't. And that's part of the negative side of the open development, in my opinion, is they put this information out there, and then when we don't like what we see, we get, the pitchforks come out and things get overly negative. And I feel like that people just are never going to be happy with it. And if you just develop it closed and just put the game out when it's finished, I don't think anybody would be upset if they went the cyberpunk model. Now we know that that's not an option for Star Citizen anymore, obviously, and it never would have been. Part of the positivity and the great part of the thing is the community aspect and how they've cultivated this community through their open development. But there's also Reddit and the Spectrum forums that are a lot of the times the opposite. because they're upset about, some random trinket on a ship that wasn't there in the concept, or um a lot of the frustrated backers nowadays because the scope of the game has changed, right?
Yeah, and feeling like you have a voice is important, I think,
Yeah.
and that's probably at least a portion. Again, we don't have the analytics of their financials, but I'm sure it's a big part into how they've been able to get all this funding into the game. Is people feeling like they have a voice, people feeling more involved, people feeling, and actually some of it kind of ties into the sort of imagination marketing that was done, initially, which worked for them, but worked for them financially, but worked against them in many ways as well. That
Yeah,
they're
saying
having
that
to
you
bring
could
that
do
back.
anything you want when you can't do anything technically right now,
Yeah,
or very
yeah,
little, and we're starting to get some gameplay at this point, right?
yeah, and just not being clear, in the beginning because they weren't exactly sure either, and they still continue to sort of iterate those ideas, but they have a much tighter review process now, and Jared does comment on this regularly, so I think that
Yeah.
it's important that they point. But on the flip side, if they don't show enough, people would obviously complain about lack of transparency. But I don't see that complaint very often. Most of the development related concerns I've seen, again, like you said, are focused on the pledge store or very specific aspects of the ship design or the game design or this particular landing gear I hate or this decision to not include cargo I hate, although I do see some legitimacy in the Valkyrie sort of discussion, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like that's kind of the point, isn't it? Backers are more focused on providing feedback on the current state of the game, which I take as a good sign. I mean, look at the live feedback form cycle on Spectrum. For all the faults that Spectrum has, or that people claim it has, or any game form for that matter, Reddit, like you pointed out, there's quite a bit of detailed participation and some very good discussions in those feedback threads. And it's really important that they continue to cultivate the goodwill and intelligence of this community and leverage it towards making a better game. I mean, you said that open dev is overwhelmingly negative because it drives that polished alpha philosophy they have. But I argue that this allows them to make the game better rather than making it in an insulated environment. Because so many aspects of the game is unprecedented, I think that live feedback is particularly important for Star Citizen, whereas the same may not be true for a less ambitious game. Even like Cyberpunk, and I may be pinned to a cross for this, but I see Cyberpunk as a less ambitious game than Star
Of
Citizen. I
course,
see
it's way less ambitious.
most
Single player right off the bat.
yes, yeah, and also bigger titles like Cyberpunk and other AAA titles have big publishers behind them usually, so they can afford to have this sort of traditional, carefully crafted, marketing release and these carefully sanitized marketing materials released and trickled out in a way that very carefully manages the public perception of their
Because they can
products.
already afford the development of it. Whereas
Yes,
this game has to fund it while they're making it, which has
yeah, it
caused
has
plenty
to
of
appeal to the
issues.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to appeal to the community. It has to appeal to whales. And I don't mean whales derogatively, but it is what it is. It has to appeal to them. And it also has to appeal to, like you said, new players now, because eventually this well's going to run dry.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult juggling act that they have to do, but it's an unprecedented challenge. I mean, look at their YouTube video where they talk about where they uploaded it during CitizenCon or after CitizenCon. It was like a mini documentary, which I thought was great because it really does give this pretty, I think, honest perspective that they have. It's like no one, asking us how does it feel and what is the process exactly for spurning and developing this $200 million project.
Yeah.
No one has a roadmap for that. And
No.
speaking of roadmaps, though, I think it's a really the roadmap. The current roadmap is a really useful snapshot of their current plans and priorities. And I think it's just the right timeline too. About 6 to 12 months out, with a projection of their plans, it's well categorized. It's easy to read and follow. There's a modified backer created version on Reddit that sort of
That's pretty
quantifies and
good.
highlights,
Yeah.
yeah, their progress a bit more clearly. But I question whether CIG implementing this format themselves would be beneficial. I mean, it doesn't seem particularly difficult to do, but it could go against maybe their culture or their philosophy. Because
I
this
don't
is
think
me
it does.
deeply. This I'm deeply speculating, and you are free to disagree here. But I am going to deeply speculate with absolutely no evidence that maybe they have a philosophy where doing that kind of a roadmap could misrepresent the true quote unquote progress being made on a feature. And so they just don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Mm, I don't know. Like, just in general, I think the roadmap is going to be a very, very positive thing for the open development of Star Citizen. I think because of object container streaming and just literally everything this year being pushed back because of it, I think some people are like, well, they put a roadmap out, but nothing on it really means anything because it always just gets pushed. But I think in the coming years, when you're not dealing with this massive pillar of tech that just delayed them for basically 6 to 8 months, it seems like the roadmap will be a lot more accurate and a lot more of a snapshot. Because like when you say it's a snapshot, I just it, nothing nothing about the what we got this year represented what we had in the original couple roadmaps of what they were planning to do this year. They didn't deliver on 70% of what we were supposed to get this year in terms of gameplay, locations, AI, the big hitters. They didn't hit any of them other than OCS and Hurston, obviously. And don't get me wrong, that stuff is enough, I think, to play the game right now and to enjoy it a bit. But, with obviously some polish needed in 3.4. But as far as the roadmap, I think that's another like sort of negative right now. And we do have one more caller, Caman, so I'm gonna probably let you go after this. But just everything up to this point, I think is the openness has hurt the game more than I think it's helped it. But from this point forward, I think the openness is going to overwhelmingly help the game than hurt it now that it's in a state that it's playable. But up to this point, the overwhelmingly negative opinion of Star Citizen from everyone in the gaming community, except for the people that were ready to, just put everything aside and say, I can see the potential of this thing and I'm going to stick with it until X time or whatever, but I think it's up to this point, it's really has hurt it. And I wonder where we would be and what the game would look like if they didn't develop openly. I think we would have maybe less of a game, but we would have more function in the game that we have. And I always lean towards that. And I've noticed that is that I always lean towards just put less fidelity, put less of amazing gameplay that they want to put in the game and just put out a game. And I have to always rein that back and say, take your time and make it good. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Just really quick. Two really quick more points to make. I think that regarding what you just said, I think that's kind of an example of our different perspectives clashing a bit because you have this wonderfully authentic, fiery, passionate perspective about the current state of the game because you play it like no one else. Like
because I play it too much. Yeah, too much. And I should not be playing it as much as this. Nobody should.
Yeah, and seriously, and people like Soros as well. Like, I mean, it's the same point. It's like if you're that exposed, it does give you this perspective where you look at development differently. You look at the roadmap differently. Because when I see the roadmap and when I meant by the snapshot of their priorities, I think that it's valuable to see how those things shift around. And it kind of reiterates the point that they make. I mean, I feel like in a way when I listen to actual backers who play the game I feel like I'm a white knighter in this regard because I see the roadmap as a helpful way of reiterating how they envision their priorities based on what they can realistically do. It's just a good illustration of, OCS is hitting us hard and it's resulted in X feature getting shifted, Y feature getting shifted. So I look at it slightly differently, but I feel like that's an interesting perspective that you have, and it reminds me of the singularity of my own perspective. But I feel like the quarterly release format has been really successful despite despite the delays. It makes it easier to track the alpha's progress, and it creates this clear format to communicate to new players and other backers. When people say, I can't wait for X feature in 3.x or whatever, that's a much clearer way of looking at the game. So I do think that's been really helpful. And lastly, while I do like the roadmap, as I've explained, perhaps more controversially, I also like their secrecy regarding Squadron. And I know that Squadron's roadmap is planned to come out soon, but I'm hoping that they'll actually limit the information in that roadmap considerably. Like everyone else, I'd love to have some idea of when the game releases, but that's not the same thing as revealing its content. So I would hope that
I
they
don't
strictly
get the
limit.
point of it.
Yeah, me neither.
I
Actually,
don't understand
but
the point of this roadmap. Like,
yeah,
just keep making the game the way you've done it for the last 5 years. Like, why change now? And just when you're ready to put out an actual release date and actual release trailers, put those out.
yeah.
Don't talk to me
absolutely.
about it until then. You know?
Yes, I'm so glad that
It's
we feel
like,
eye to eye on.
why would we switch from where we are now with that game? I don't understand. What's the point?
Yeah.
The whole fucking thing about Squadron's roadmap is the fucking Star Citizen roadmap is Squadron's roadmap.
Yeah.
Subsumption, object container streaming, like all those things, the new flight model, this tech, that tech, it all goes into Squadron. So what's the point? I don't get it.
Look at all the details we've been able to glean from the PU's roadmap.
Yeah.
Things in Squadron, even the existing backers who
like,
are not.
if
we're
this
not
isn't
their
in,
office,
Squadron's not coming. Like, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, exactly. So I think it'll be difficult for them to do that, for them to release a roadmap that limits spoilers and gives any sort of useful information without it being, weird. But we'll see how they do.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Caman, let me let you go and get Shadow Hunter in, and I'll see you probably next week. I know you're really excited about next week. And for those of you guys that didn't know, we were planning on doing it this week. It was just a discussion about being a female in Star Citizen and a discussion about the female model and the perspective of a female. We're going to bring on Alyciana, who's a good friend of ours, and have her come on and discuss Star Citizen from a female perspective. And I think that'll be a really interesting show. So, all right, let me bring Shadowhunter on. And
all right, really looking forward to that discussion. All right,
man.
Take care.
See you next week. Okay, Shadowhunter, you're on Answer the Call. Sorry, that was a long one.
No, that's all good. How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Mate, I'm playing Star Citizen as I talk to yourself. I'm a little distracted. And I'm sorry you kept crashing. I was watching the stream and I was like,
God, it was frustrating. It was frustrating.
So I'm going to disagree with you. Okay, so I originally heard of Star Citizen a few years ago. One of my mates, he went through and he was the one who turned around and told me this game. I went home, I Googled it, I saw all the negative reports regarding it, and it sort of put me off.
Of course.
And I was like, look, obviously if you start reading the reports, you start looking into them, a lot of them are dubious claims and whatever, maybe. But yeah, it really put me off originally because of all those media reports. But about ago, I was watching, I think it might have been Citaro or you, one of the two. And I was going to say, and I was watching you guys play the actual game. And that was enough for me to go and actually say, well, hang on. No, what I've read about this might necessarily be true. Let me spend the 45 because it was 45 at that time because it wasn't special, and go through, play it, see how it goes, and if it does fail, I've only spent $50 American. If it doesn't fail, I've got a new game that I'm playing.
Yep.
So I was going to say that sort of honesty, that sort of, like, here's a new PTU build, and since then I've put about $600 or $700 into the game, so yeah, it's definitely paid off for them. But what I was going to say, as much as a small person like me does make a difference to their bank account, of course. But I was going to say that openness, that whole transformative of like, here's the game, this is what we're doing. I don't think they would have been able to do that with something that is crowdfunded and taken this long to build. I think people, the rumor mill, the negative campaign. At the moment, we can sort of turn around and say, well, no, hang on, you're wrong about Star Citizen being a scam because of this. Like, at the moment, I'm literally flying to Levski to drop off some Widow. Like, this is actual gameplay, and this is what we're actually being able to do, and we can sort of debunk those negative criticisms. But if it was done in secret and if they weren't open about it, I imagine we won't be able to do that. The rumor mills, the negative publicity about this would be absolutely astonishing. And the game would
I kind of
probably
disagree
fall.
though. Do you like if there was no if it was developed closed, I feel like there wouldn't
Mm.
be any arguments about, well, the frame rate's bad, or we don't there's only going to be this many players in a server, or like a lot of
Mm.
the arguments it are on either side won't be
Mm.
there, and then you just put out a product that is finished. I mean, that's how most games go, right? Now, most games that get released these days are a sloppy, buggy mess too, right? So at this point,
Fallout.
yeah, Fallout 76. Like my friend texted me yesterday and goes, Fallout 76 turned out to be a disaster, and I was like, I told you not to buy it, and he
Hmm.
was like, yeah, but so it's, I don't know, it's like, is Star Citizen released? Like, is Star Citizen in its state now? Like, fine, because people are just used to playing buggy games anyway.
I don't know. So, like I said, look, I've been playing. I started playing roughly when you started streaming because I jumped on and then I saw you on because of the Twitch notification. So I
Yeah.
put your stream up on the Xbox. So we've both been playing at the same time. I haven't crashed once this whole time.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of mates who crashed, but we are playing on EU servers and I'm in Australia. So
Could be it.
pretty laggy. Yeah, I'm expecting more crashes than I'm actually getting at the moment. So I don't know. I think the people that would sit there and go, oh, look at the bad frame rate. Oh, look at this, look at that. I think they would be there regardless of what they put out. And I think at the moment you would sort of not be able to have that argument of, but hang on, because everybody at that stage would be like, oh, well, it's raised $200 million. Where's our game? And at the moment we can sort of turn around and say, well, here, this is what they're doing. You know, like I was talking to one of the guys at work the other day, and I was saying to him about Star Citizen, and I was saying to him about how you can literally wake up in a hab, go out, jump in a space, fly to a different planet, land on the moon, get out, go for a walk or mine or whatever you want to do, get back in your spaceship, fly back to a different planet, land, and log off, and you don't get a single loading screen except for the first time you're loading into the game. And he was just like, what, there's no loading screens? I'm like, no, dude, there's none of this, you know, like Destiny stuff.
Yeah.
There's no loading screens that's going to make you, you know, simulate flying. No, it's all free flowing. It's all free play. There's no loading. And he was completely blown away with it. And I think that if we, without that sort of, look, this is the PU, because every time, you know, we make videos, or every time we talk to someone, I don't know about you, but I do especially, I'll say to them, look, this game is in development. This game is not finished. This game will not be finished for a few more years, at least. But this is what they've been working on for the past 6 years. This is the technological breakthrough they've had over the past 6 years.
Let me with that point, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Like, and this will go back to my original point, is if Star Citizen's development was less open or not open at all. Okay, let me ask you a question, two questions. Are procedural planets the most important, like, R&D technology that they did with the money from funding?
No, I would say the container streaming.
Well, that was going to happen anyway. That had to happen anyway. But the like object container streaming was planned, but the procedural planets weren't. So of things from the original scope of the game to where we are now, I think the biggest feat of technology was procedural planets, and that's what changed the game from the original scope to where we are now. And that's, you know, what some of the people that I think are overwhelmingly upset with Star Citizen through its open development and not getting what they expected from the original Kickstarter or whatever to what we have now. That was the biggest change that happened. And I want to ask you, would we have gotten, and in my opinion, it's the most overwhelmingly positive thing that's come into Star Citizen, even though it's probably held its development up by years because everything's changed and
Mm,
all this technology, like object container streaming, has to happen.
mm.
I think it probably would have had to happen anyway, but yeah, I mean, we don't know. So the do you think we would have gotten procedural planets? Do you think we would have anywhere near the game that we have today and that's planned for the next couple of years for the future if they weren't as open as they are now? Or do you think that they
I
would have
think
done this?
I think I think either way, Chris Roberts probably would have, at the very least, thought about Procedural Planet
Yeah.
because I've been going through and I've been watching, trying to catch up on all the old videos that I never saw that were from a few years ago. And I was watching the one where they were talking about the milestones and procedural planets and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And it seemed like it was something that was bugging him, the fact that he couldn't land on the planet, get out and walk around and jump back in and fly. It seemed like that whole automatic fly-in sort of technology, like Destiny, for example,
Yeah.
was something that really bugged the something or other out of him. It was something that annoyed him. So I think there might have been a chance he might have not put it in because of people complaining about the time frame and stuff like where's my game after 6 years, which also goes to prove my point of the fact because it is so open, we don't have as much of that as I imagine we would. But I think at the end of
That's
the day, I
true.
still
If they were
think
closed, do you think people would be more upset with the pace?
oh yeah,
I think you're right too.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you look at like a normal game and you hear it from everybody else. A normal game development is quote 3 years, but the fact of the matter is that
This isn't a
actually
normal
not true.
game
Yeah,
either.
exactly. It's not just that, but normally when you, for example, with Destiny, right? Bungie started working on Destiny years before they even announced. So I think when people say, "Oh, it's 3 years to build a game," it's not really because they're using pre-existing engines with stuff that has already been developed, and they only have to do minor adjustments. This is basically taking Lumberyard and basically redesigning the whole thing, basically from scratch. Like
Yeah.
there is a lot of modifications that have gone into this game from Lumberyard,
Oh yeah.
and I think
And more to
and
come.
I think oh yeah, and I'm excited for what is happening. Although I am realizing that by the time this game gets released, I might need glasses and I might be able to see my monitor screen. But I was going to say, but it's going to be a while. But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, that sort of openness sort of dispels a lot of this whole it's a scam. It's taking 6 years. You haven't got a game. A lot of that stuff. And I got mates at work, and I can turn around and I'll talk. One of them's a backer, one of them's waiting for it to be released before he plays it. And I'll talk to these guys, and we all talk about the game and everything like that. And they can turn around, they'll say like, "Oh, it's been 6 years,"
Yeah.
and I'll turn around and say, "Well, yes, but this is what was released yesterday or a week ago or whatever it may be." And I can sort of dispel that whole or sort of squash that whole it's a scam, it's not going to come because of the fact that I can say, well, no, hang on, we got 3.37 or 3.35 added a few times. And
Yeah.
this is what we got. We got Hurston. We got, we're getting the business district for probably the next 2 or so weeks. It's like they're constantly adding to it. And it's like, this is where our money is going. We can sort of justify it to people. And yeah, I think you wouldn't be able to do that with open development. And also, you got to remember too, with open development, it's allowing them to go through and just squish these bugs as they add stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of having 100 computers or 500 computers playing it, they've got I don't know how many thousands of people playing it every single day, whatever it may be.
It's true.
So a lot of the issues that they can sort of turn around and say, well, look, hey, this is what we've got, and okay, here's a bug report, here's an error. Like, how many times, I don't know if you play the PTU, but how many times have you played the PTU and had a crash report sent? Like,
A lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
When 3.35 came out, I think it was crashing for the first one. I think it was like C or D or whatever. And I think we were crashing like 3 to 5 times like every 2 or 3 hours. It was insane.
Yeah.
But this is stuff that they didn't know because everybody has different hardware. Everybody has different PCs, sound cards,
Yeah, it's not a console
processors.
where you know what you're dealing with hardware-wise.
Exactly. Cookie cutter machines, and not to use that term derogatory, but yeah. But like I say, everybody's systems are different. Like you just look at the graph that they have on their website now. What do you want to call it? I forgot the term for it. Shows all the frame rates and stuff like that. But yeah, people have different systems, different computers, and I think that sort of allows them to also bug fix as well. And yeah, I think there's a lot of pros.
Okay.
Pros to it.
Fair enough. And I'll leave you there, Shadow, because we have another caller that just popped in. But go ahead, make your last point.
So just on Squadron 42, I think the reason why we're getting it or getting the roadmap for it now, I think because it is finished or almost finished, and I think we will be getting it within 12 months.
All right, we'll see.
I was watching a video today and they were talking about it, and they said container streaming was the last major hurdle or large major milestone for Squadron 42, and we got
the AI is still a disaster, so we'll see. Maybe it's just a disaster over in the MMO portion of the game, but I think we'll see. Yeah, I will be cautiously optimistic about Squadron. I don't bother looking at the when. I just whenever it is, it is for me. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. All right, Shadow.
I'll let you go. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you very much for the call, man. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Bye now. All right, and Ponut64 is our final caller for the day. Ponut, we're going to keep it relatively short today because I don't know if I said it at the beginning of today's episode, but I got a new job and I've worked many hours in the last 2 days, and I'm struggling a bit today. I'm tired. So
yeah, I understand. I'm not gonna take long anyway.
No problem, Ponut. So what do you think? Is it too open? Is it not open enough? What are the positives? What are the negatives of Star Citizen's open development?
Well, I'm going to start by saying the open development is a consequence of being a crowdfunded game.
That's a very good point.
They kind of had to legally. I mean, I'm not going to say they had to, but I mean, there have been crowdfunded games that have gone
to at least give updates,
sphere.
Right?
Yeah, they have to do something.
Yeah.
But the amount of detail they've given has been enlightening. For me, as having done some modding and development at some point, that the way I do it actually kind of the same way they do it, which is now I realize why it's going like forever, and it will continue to take forever.
Yeah.
But I am of the idea that I like games to just come out of nowhere and be good. So that's why Star Citizen's open development has frustrated me.
Yeah, me too. I just want to play a game and go, wow, that was fun. Or that is fun.
So I'm going to talk about a console game that's for kids.
Oh, just God. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go off topic, but it's called Starlink Battle for Atlas. I know we don't want to go too off topic, but the thing about this game is it does a lot of the mind-boggling things that we've wanted from Star Citizen, like, no loading screens going from planet surface to space. It does this on a tiny Nintendo Switch console. Sorry, off topic, but it does it like that, and it's amazing that can come out of nowhere and surprise me and be good and fun. And also, I can buy the game and then sell off the cartridge, so that's cool. But, in the time of Star Citizen's open development, there have been many projects that came out and doing the things that Star Citizen wants to do, but in a more limited way. So maybe Star Citizen taught these people how to do it. I don't know.
Or how not to, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think Star Citizen's teaching people a lot of things about not just pushing the boundaries of like video gaming, but the boundaries of how you develop your game.
Yeah, it's definitely doing that. And it's definitely also pushing the boundaries of budget to develop a game. Anyway,
That's debatable.
it's it's a good learning process for people who want to make games to get in this open development. I don't know so much about people who are interested in buying the game and playing it because it's confusing the hell out of what people want the game to be when they look at all this in development stuff. But
I'll always say this, and I've said this so many times, is they're being massively open in a lot of things, but there's not a massive amount of people that care. There are hundreds of thousands, I would guess, of people that are just sitting there and waiting for this game to actually be playable, and then they're going to play it. But there are only between 20 and 40, or let's say 20 and 60,000 people, and these analytics are coming from people that watch their YouTube channel, people that vote when they do community votes for specific things related to the video game. They're not getting more than 40,000 views or 40,000 votes on those things. So those are the active backers. But when they do the open development stuff, who are you giving that information to? You're only giving it to the active backers. And while that's great, you're slowing down the development of the game for people that have already bought into it.
Yeah.
And have already, like, when you buy into it, you're hopefully, we obviously know there's some outliers, a lot of outliers, so it's maybe not an outlier. There's a lot of people that don't really know what they were buying into. But I think at this point, a lot of people know what they're buying into at this point. So now you're spending all this time, money, and resources for people that they're already in, man. You already got them. They're hooked.
I don't view it as a marketing ploy anymore. As you say, it doesn't get a whole lot of views. And I think it's mostly
how can you not?
people...
I don't want to interrupt you, but let me interrupt you real quick. How can you not, when every single fucking thing that goes on their website or goes on their ATVs and everything is ship related? Not everything, but almost everything is ship related. So if you're telling me that Calling All Devs, ATV, and RTV are not marketing, they are that is all they are.
You win there. You're entirely right.
That's all they are.
And they're marketing to people who already
have the game. So what's the point? He's silent. He's silent. I have managed to silence the Pona. No, it's not an argument or anything. It's just that's what it is, you know? And I think it's a big waste of money and a waste of time. A lot of it. But then at the same time, they're making so much money because of it. So it's just like, it's weird to be in my perspective and try and have the perspective of somebody that has never played the game before. And that's what I'm trying to do. And it's so hard is I'm trying to be someone that would be like, well, I would love it if it just came out of nowhere and was just a game. But would we have Star Citizen if we didn't do it this way is really the question, you know?
Yeah. The vast majority of people, like you say, are just waiting. They're playing other games, waiting for this one to be a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the whales, as chat's bringing up, are the ones who are watching those videos and dumping more money on the new hot ship or doing the melt exchange thing.
Yeah.
But
I imagine this time around they're selling a lot more starter packages and getting new accounts and new people into the game than they ever have. I think what we should really look at is not the funding numbers, but the accounts added in the last 2 months and see how that's actually changed. And ignore the actual funding numbers. I believe they still do, but I don't know where it was. I don't think it's a part of the chart, so you can't look back and be like, on this day they had this many backers, and on this day they have that many backers. There's a podcast called the Guard Frequency Podcast. I don't know if they still do it. I haven't been listening to it for a little while lately. And if they still do, they used to do an update of the funding and the number of backers each week. So I'd be curious to see what it was like 6 months or 3 months ago, maybe, and to now. But,
that's right. They do have the account number. You can compare that.
Okay. Even based on date?
Yeah. as far as I understand, you can just. I'm just saying what you said. You can look at the citizens number and mark what number that is 2 months ago, and then But
Yeah.
I think
go
their
ahead.
open development has been. It has been a pretty. It has been a great economic boon. I said marketing. They made a lot of money from doing it, but I think it's hurt the game's development because it's slowed it down a lot. But that's my opinion. I would have rather them delivered the game that they had 60 million for, or even 60,000 for at the end of the Kickstarter thing in 2013, than us take this long. I would rather the game we're looking at now be Star Citizen 2 and the original game be what was promised only when they were on Kickstarter. But that's obviously not what made them the most money. So
Yeah. I was actually just given a spreadsheet, and I'm scrolling, and I've only gotten to 2014.
Which is when I bought the game.
Yeah, and it has the per day, the number of counts added. So I would have to get pretty far, but there is, and I'll put that link in the description of the YouTube video, and the link was obviously in the Twitch chat. So I think it's actually possible to find that information out. Just actually getting to it will be difficult. Let's see. Okay, here we go. In August, they had August of 2018, they had 1.6 million backers. Or no, hold on. The backers, August of 2018, they had 2,067,000, and now they have 2,192,000. So they've gone up quite a bit in the last few months, like 100,000 backers. But it's weird to see I don't know if we'll be able to see the natural progression. I would have to like take that data and see how many is it per day, per month, and how many was it in this time period versus that time period. I think we'd have to do some more comparables, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Hanziolo said 50,000 new accounts since the start of the anniversary sale. That's backer account. I believe that's backer accounts, so people that actually bought the game.
Okay, for sales, that's good. I was saying just for accounts, that's kind of low.
Yeah. I think when you do that, it's Star Citizens, guys. That's what they're called. So that means that they've backed the game. I believe you can back the game for $5 and end up on that list, but regardless, if you've put any money towards the game, it's something. So interesting. Yeah. But anything else you want to add before we head out?
No, well, I just want to say I'd like for them to shut up and make the game, but yeah.
I agree, but then would we be there? Would we be where we are now if they did? And it's an impossible question to answer, but it definitely is like something to ask, and I don't know. I don't know where we would be, because we know that the open development has obviously created this beast that it is, but what are the positives, what are the negatives, and we'll never know until the end, right? If it really hurt it or it really helped it, or we'll just maybe never know. But I thought it would be an interesting discussion to have, or an interesting talk to have. And again, I wish I was a little bit more here today, and I really need to adjust to this new work schedule, and I will. But
yeah, I don't think anyone was prepared for this one.
Yeah, this one's tough, man. This one's tough. So I am looking forward to next week. I think next week will be really unique and different. But Ponat, you got anything else you want to add before I head you out?
Nope. Thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on, as always. Have a good one. Well, all right, guys. That was Answer the Call. Again, I'll say it one more time. I will apologize that I'm not 100% with it. And next week I will be. And I'm really looking forward to having Alyssiana next week. So we will see how that one goes. It should be a very different Answer the Call. Not just because we have a female caller, and not because we're getting a different perspective on things, but because it's just a different. It'll probably be a very different format where I'm gonna kind of be asking her a lot of questions, and maybe more of like an interview style thing. I think it should be really different. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And yeah, if you guys are watching on Twitch, just remember I do have a YouTube channel that you can, if you missed half the show, you can go and watch the rest of it over there. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember that you can come over to Twitch and be a part of the show yourself, like some of the guys were today. All right. And it's twitch.tv/Torque17. YouTube is Torque17 Gaming. You can just kind of Google search it and you'll find it. And yeah, so guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, ring the bell, and all that other stupid stuff. Subscribe, comment below. Tell me if Star Citizen is too open to you, or is it not open enough? What are the positives of open development? What are the negatives of open development to you? All right? And I will see you guys in the next Answer the Call next week. All right? Have a good one, everybody.